Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to this Thursday evening episode of Double Down News Live. Before we get going tonight, I want to give the usual shout out to our incredible patrons who support all of the work that is produced and created by DDN. None of it would be possible without them. So if you like what you see, please do visit the Patreon link in the description and join the future of journalism today. As always, do also please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video and share it as well. You'll have found it hard this week to avoid a chant of "It's coming home" as the Euros got started last week and Raheem Sterling gave England a win in the first group stage game against Croatia. Tonight, we wanted to do something a little bit different and talk about football, not just the Euros, but also the politics of the tournament and the wider game as well. And to do so, we're absolutely delighted to be joined by a legend, Peter Reid. Peter, thank you so much for joining us tonight, mate.
My pleasure. I'll tell you what, I must think a lot of you. I'm missing the Netherlands and Austria game.
Yeah, you are indeed. You are. We've had a bit of a timing mishap in some ways, but as long as you've still got it on in some ways, mate. We really appreciate you joining us. And you know, I was looking up actually earlier. You were a pundit yourself back in 2006 in Germany, weren't you?
Yeah, I've done a few. I've done a little bit in the media and quite enjoyed it. Hey, listen, football's like anything in life. It's about opinions, and that's the beauty of the game. And I just love it. I mean, I enjoyed the game today. Belgium coming back to beat a really strong Denmark side. So, and I've been involved in football since I was, well, I played football like many kids my age on the street and loved it. Grew up through the ranks and had a decent career.
What's been your highlight of the Euros so far, Peter? Was it Raheem's goal or something else?
I think Raheem Sterling's goal and the way Phillips made it was great. But I've got to say, everything comes second to Christian Eriksen. What happened there and him pulling through, so to speak. I know he's in hospital and he's still getting recovery, and he's but that was I watched that live and it, like everybody else who watched it hits you. So is you know, human beings are the most important thing in life. Footy's brilliant, but comes second best.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think it's been the worst scene of the tournament so far was when he collapsed on that pitch. Really haunting moment for a number of reasons. And I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about it, actually, and get your perspective on it, because obviously we're all incredibly pleased that Eriksen seems to be on a bit of a path to recovery. But my immediate reaction to it was one of complete disgust at the way that the cameras tried to kind of exploit the moment that he fell, and then trying to get a peek around his teammates as they tried to protect him and so on in the stadium. I mean, what did you make of that when that happened, that sort of immediate reaction?
I think as we all know, it was on BBC, but they didn't have the feed. Maybe somebody from the BBC should have gone back to the studio a little bit earlier, yes, but it was unprecedented, wasn't it? I was in a state of shock, like on my couch watching it. You know, this couch I was on, to be fair. So, yeah, maybe it could have gone a bit early, but I can understand, you know, people not drawing out a state of shock. At first, it looked as though, you know, I thought, why has he gone down like everyone else? And it was just, I mean, it's not great when you TV cameras are trying to pan in that, but the most pleasing part for me was the reaction of the players and the medical staff, more importantly. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, footballers get a lot of stick, obviously, for suggestions that they have it easy and, you know, get paid a hell of a lot of money nowadays. But managers like Guardiola have been saying for some time that there's too much football being played. There's too much sort of pressure put on footballers in terms of what's expected of them. And obviously that's kind of been relitigated, that argument, in light of what's happened to Eriksen. And do you think that he's right? Do managers like Guardiola have a point?
I think where we are in this pandemic and the way play. Listen, I love playing football. It's proved sport needs people there to watch. Now the players, I think, mentally as well, to go out there every week and they're in a bubble. There's no release for them to go out in the park and perform. And this is in all leagues and all sports. I think has been commendable. I think mentally and physically, they've done a great job and absolutely brilliant job. People will say they're on hundreds of thousands of pounds a week and big money. It's not their fault. That's the market. That's the marketplace. I mean, I think it is a good wage, I've got to say, to play football. But I think what they've done over the last 18 months or so has been absolutely remarkable. I think it's been brilliant, and it's kept people like me going. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got a garden. I've got a nice house. I could get out and about in this pandemic. But the people who are in apartments, terraced houses, who haven't got gardens, I mean, the football and sport in general has been a lifeblood for them. So all credit to football clubs and all sport and events for giving us something in these difficult times. Players as well. I think the players have done absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's certainly been something to look forward to, hasn't it? No matter what's been going on, you know, over the crazy sort of 18 months that we've been living through. It's been something to look forward to for sure. There might be some people watching this, Peter.
Gin and tonic either, it's water, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I thought maybe you were doing a Ronaldo or something with the whatever drink you were throwing out there. But yeah, there might be some people watching, Peter, who are thinking, you know, normally we talk a lot about politics, normally pure politics of what's going on in the news. They might be asking, you know, why are we thinking about football or talking about football? But you know, I'm someone who spends a lot of time talking about politics, and you're quite vocal on the issue as well. And as football fans, you know, I find it a bit bizarre sometimes when people raise that question of, you know, oh, you should keep it completely separate. Because, you know, there's a lot of politics in football as well, isn't there? There's a lot of football in politics, if we're honest. You know, we've seen that over the last few months, the last year with the European Super League, or with the way that people like Marcus Rashford have stepped up and played a big role. I mean, how do you see the two things interacting in society?
Well, we live in a democracy. I was involved in football. I've still got an opinion in politics. I've still got a voice. And because people sometimes on Twitter come on and say, keep out of it, what you know. No, I won't. I've got an opinion. I'm happy with my opinion. You know, and I respect other people's opinion. I mightn't disagree with it. I think the Prime Minister's a balloon. That's my opinion. You know, it can't stop me, you know. But he's been sacked twice for lying. The NHS vaccine has been brilliant. But what he's done in this pandemic, for me, has been hopeless. And I don't care if it's Peter Reid, football manager, or Peter Reid, who was born in Huyton. I've got an opinion, and I live in a democracy, and I'll give it. So, bollocks to them.
No, I don't blame you. And I mean, obviously, you know, I think you're something of like a star on Twitter as well, in terms of like your honesty with like your political views, which I think a lot of people find refreshing. To be completely honest. And you know, where's your sort of politics come from? Your sort of political philosophy?
I think it's always. I mean, I was brought up in Huyton, which, funny enough, was Harold Wilson's MP. He was the MP, Harold Wilson. You know, Prime Minister in the '60s. So I think it is, and it's your upbringing, isn't it? I mean, Rees Mogg's politics from his upbringing. Mine's a completely different upbringing and different politics. But I like people being looked after. I think if you work hard, you should get paid for it. But there's some people in society who find it difficult, you know, and what they say about these people, the scroungers, there are some people who abuse the system. Correct. But the majority of people in this country are hardworking, fall on bad times. You should be looked after. And it shouldn't be called benefits. It should be called a welfare. Because that benefits, they try and chuck on it as though they're doing something wrong. And that gets me at it. You know, we're not all get up and go people. Some of us have a go. Some of us got mental issues. We're not all the same. Some of us are strong. Some of us are weak. That's what the old melting pots are like. And in a decent society, I think people should be looked after.
Yeah, it's a pretty it's a kind of a basic point about humanity that's often missed in the political debate, isn't it, nowadays? That idea of, you know, people looking after each other, which I think we've lost in our society in some ways.
Well, and I don't think we lost it, but I think there's certain people who don't appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, looking back on football as well, I think there's some trends in society as well where football fans are looked down on in a similar way. That, you know, there's often always been a bit of a trend to characterize a lot of football fans with hooliganism, or, you know, suggest that they're, you know, scroungers as well, if you like. But, you know, football has got quite a proud history of being a working class sport, and as something, you know, the people's game, if you like. It's often been held up as in certain circles. Do you think there's a way that we can connect football fans with the sort of like socialism in a way that you talk about, of, you know, people standing together, a sort of collectivism of bringing people back together in what, if we're honest, a very divided country at the moment?
I just think in football, you know, there's nothing like going to a live gig. There's nothing like going to a live tennis match. I mean, I'm a working class lad. Believe it or not, I've been to Wimbledon and I love it. And that's, but football is, you know, there's a lot of corporate now. It's big business. I understand that, but it's still, I think, the ordinary man in the street, and we've got to be careful we don't price that out. You know, when a dad wants to take his girl and his boy, his son and his daughter to a game, we need that to be not too expensive. You know, for ordinary people to get there. I understand the business part of it. I understand that it's changed. You know, there's Americans own football clubs. There's Manchester City. When I was there, it was heart and soul. I still think it's got it, but it's financially back now. So you're not going to get away from that. And is the progress yet? The stadiums are better facilities for everyone. But there's still that earthiness that I like about an Everton Liverpool derby, a Manchester City Manchester United derby, and that's still local for me. That's still local, even though football's global, and you'll get Manchester City fans in Thailand, Manchester United fans in Thailand, Everton. That's just because the game is worldwide now. And when I managed in Thailand, there was great interest. When I managed in India, there's massive interest in European football. That's a fact of life. But somehow we've got to get that married to that sort of what I call that working class Liverpool fan, Everton fan, Man United, Man City fan. Local.
Yeah, and talking of the sort of like development of the game, or the modern game anyway today, I mean, what were your initial reactions when the Super League sort of announcement was made? What were you thinking around the time?
I wasn't a happy bunny, I've got to be honest. I understand the richer clubs trying to look after themselves, but the competition, you cannot go into a competition without earning it, finishing in that top four, winning something, and you can't. And if you're hopeless, you can't get relegated. You can't go out of it because you got money. The whole essence of sport is that competition, win, lose, or draw. And I'm the worst. I'm the worst loser in the world. But it's there. If you never lose, it's not. You're not going to have that edge, you know. And your disappointments make all your successes, for me, sweeter. You know, so that competitive edge where, you know, just say Arsenal, Tottenham, for instance, don't finish in the top four. I think it's ridiculous being in the Champions League, and Real Madrid, and who are great clubs, yeah. But then you're talking about a club like Ajax not getting invited. I mean, the history and you know, and the football club that has been that just grinded on me. So I was just delighted. I mean, I think they'll have a go again in another format, but it's got to be competition based. It's got to be.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you think of? I mean, there was obviously a massive response from fans around that, an attempt by sort of grassroots fans to fight back against it, and in some ways, you could say that that succeeded. But what do you think the next sort of level needs to be of the response from fans to try and sort of claim back some of the sort of leadership at clubs? I know we've got there's been big efforts at Liverpool and other clubs as well to do that, but I mean, what would you like to see as the next sort of steps taken?
Well, it's different in different countries. In the Bayern Munich fan base, and Barcelona and Real Madrid are supposed to be, but the big presidents then make the decisions for the fans. Whether that, I mean, it's listen. I just think the Glazers are coming to Manchester United, and certain people have had a go at the Glazers, the businessmen. I appreciate that, and they're second biggest spenders, I think, to Manchester City. So they've got transfer funds, but they take dividends out. Now, that whether you want to change the whole marketplace, that's another debate. The way they are now doing legal things, do I like that? It's a I think what they've done. They bought it. They've used the bank's money to buy it. They've repaid it. They still have huge debts, but it's all legal. And different clubs have different ways to go about it. Would I like my club to be like that? Mashiri took over Everton. He's put his money in. He's making decisions. That's the way we are at the moment. I just think we've just got to be careful on the competition, and that's why I wasn't happy with the European Super League, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you touched on there for a moment is like the German model of ownership that's talked about and was talked about a lot around the time of the announcement. I mean, it seemed, you know, I think it's in practice, it sounds like, or in theory at least, it sounds like a brilliant idea. I think in practice, it would obviously be incredibly difficult to deliver here on practical grounds at the moment. But I mean, is that something that you think, you know, could be possible at some point for clubs here in England?
I think the thing is, I've been in board meetings at football clubs, and you know, there's intelligent people on there, as you know. But there's some people being on boards who, let's say, you wouldn't go and have a pint with, or you'd have to check your pockets after you went out with them for a pint. But I think somewhere, if a fans on the board, I think would be a good idea, but in reality, which we're talking about, would they have any sway? It's all right placating people for the fans are on the board, but I'm not sure whether that'll go through. It's one of them. Would I like it? Yeah. Would I think it'd be feasible, or would I think in reality it'd work? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's got to be something that's meaningful, I guess, isn't it? Rather than just, you know, something they do for the publicity or to stick a plaster over it.
Yeah. And I fear that would be the case.
Yeah. Another area that we had quite a lot of questions about.
Holland one up.
Oh, perfect. We've got live scores as well. We've got it all covered. One of the areas that we had people submitting questions about as well, with politics obviously playing a role in football at the moment, was the issue of the England players deciding to take the knee before the game, which has obviously ignited a huge debate between both sides, really. And we've seen, you know, the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister sort of refuse to condemn the people booing the players, and sort of different perspectives offered. I mean, what's been your view on the whole thing? And, you know, what was your sort of response to hearing Johnson and Priti Patel with their response to players like Raheem Sterling who have spoken out on the issue?
Well, I mean, Johnson and Patel, they change their minds next day, don't they? I think players, if they get together and they've decided they're going to take the knee for a cause, what's wrong with it? You know, when you try and hijack, you know, the knee as a Marxist ideology or statement, I think that's ridiculous. Them lads are going out there and they're taking the knee for one reason, and they're collectively doing it. I ain't got a problem with it. I don't know why you should do it. England played Croatia, and some people booed the national anthem. I don't get that. I mean, I don't get that. I think you should have respect for other people. By the way, when that whistle goes and you're playing against Croatia, get in there, win tackles, win the game. But, you know, you can do it in a respectful way before the game with anthems. And I like taking the knee. If the squad of players have got together and want to do something, get it done. I mean, Marcus Rashford, when he took on the government, did he? And he won. Well, he didn't win, but the public won it with him. The public won it with him because they realised Marcus was right. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, in a democracy, you know, we've got opinions. And if we think the government's wrong, even though they're trying to legislate through Parliament that you can't have demonstrations or you can't go against them, I think it's good sometimes people... I know we're not sure about that, Mr. Prime Minister, Mrs. Home Secretary. We want this.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Rashford is obviously, you know, on the school campaigns, but also on a lot of the other stuff he's done. He's kind of cementing himself to go down in the history books as one of those sports stars who's obviously a brilliant player, but also has taken on, you know, these causes, and I think will be remembered for that. You know, everybody sort of knows his name. I mean, how have you found, you know, the sort of work that he's been doing over the course of the last 18 months in particular, as a footballer who's kind of stepped up to hold the government to account?
Oh, outstanding. Outstanding. What I would say is, though, even when I made my debut in the early 70s, well, mid-70s, that sounds really old, early 70s, mid-70s, and footballers all through have done lots for charities. Lots and lots, all through, you know, the career, and even before, you know. So they've always had, I think football's always had a social awareness. But what Marcus Rashford done has been absolutely incredible. He's galvanised people in difficult times, and it just shows you what you can do. The social media now is unbelievable in society and life, so you can get things done. And I just, I mean, he could have done that. He could have done that quietly, but he knew he needed a response nationally, and that's why he used the social media. He did it great, but the outcome was the right outcome. You know, kids who can't afford lunches. I mean, I've seen some quotes from some Tory MPs about, you know, scrounging and smoking and televisions, which is by the way, ridiculous when kids are going hungry in this day and age. In this country, the sixth largest or richest country in the world. So I go back to what we first started with. You've got to look after people as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely.
And certainly children, dear me.
Yeah, no, it's pretty shocking. Another area that I know you've spoken out about, Peter, where you can't disconnect the politics and the football is obviously with the Hillsborough Justice campaign. And at the end of May, a judge stopped the trial of two former South Yorkshire police officers and the force's former solicitor, who had been charged with perverting the course of justice for amending police statements at the time. Just one person has been convicted for anything related to the Hillsborough disaster, and that was Graham Mackerel, who was the then Sheffield Wednesday secretary of a safety offence, and he was fined £6,500. Just one person convicted. What do you think this says about our society today with the collapse of that trial?
Well, it was a legal technicality, wasn't it? Which happens, but it goes deeper, doesn't it? I mean, Orgreave in the 80s, you know, you could go Grenfell even now with this cladding. I mean, it'll just be, in my opinion, another cover-up, whitewash. You know, no one will be held accountable. And I don't want people lives ruined, but just think of what happened there, and somebody's got to be accountable for it. and there hasn't been anybody accountable because of legal technicalities, and it's just it grates on you, and you wonder, is the legal system and law, obviously we're all law abiding, but there's some ways people can get by on technicalities, and it just isn't right. You know, when 96 people go to a game and they don't come home, something's not right about that, and people not being held accountable. And we know for a fact that statements were amended on a lot of police officers, and we know for a fact there was media-led discrediting of Liverpool fans at that day, and and that is a scandal in itself. But that was where we were at that time. It shouldn't be allowed. Can we learn from it? Hopefully we can. But Leveson Inquiry 2 stopped. You know, you'd have a look at things recently. The Met, you know, being accountable. It's something in the legal system, and especially the Met Police at this moment in time is pretty worrying, I'd suggest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, also the current Prime Minister, and you know the sort of role that he played with comments that were published in the Spectator about Liverpool fans at the time. I mean, am I right in saying
he didn't write it? He was the editor, wasn't he?
Yeah,
it's his responsibility as the editor, and you know, I throw that on Twitter every now and then because it just shows you what type of fella he is, doesn't it?
Am I right in saying that you came up against him at a charity match and confronted him about his comments?
I didn't come up against him. I was managing his team.
Right.
And I didn't know there was a few people there, but I let's just say I made my feelings known to him, and it was a good Anglo-Saxon words I used, which, you know, I thought he deserved, and his reaction. If there was a piano, he would have been in there with the lid down. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
but that's
honest.
That's the type of guy he is, isn't it? You can see that.
Yeah. No, honesty is the best policy. I mean, obviously, you've been quite outspoken about sort of Johnson and his handling of the pandemic. I mean, we're sort of now, you know, entering a stage where he's obviously delayed things by another 4 weeks. Things seem, you know, more uncertain than they have for quite a while. What's been your sort of overview of the way that he's handled things?
Do you mean is missing at the first 5 Cobra meetings? Well, what was that? There was a report in 2016, was the Cygnus report on pandemics, which got thrown out the window or ignored. That was in 2016. Oh, what can I say about it? Shake hands. Yeah, he shook hands with COVID people. Great, that, you know, brave boy, isn't he? PPE contracts. The less said, the better. Oh, and what about what was it? What was the quote? The world beating test and trace. That was it. That one. And the one that got me, because I was at Wigan Athletic at the time, when Atletico Madrid fans come over to Liverpool, it kicked off in the pandemic in Spain. 3,000 were at Anfield. Cheltenham was on. Cheltenham, go on, yeah. Concerts were on. I think the Stereophonics were on. And I think at the time, if I'm not mistaken, Mikel Arteta got COVID, and then the football just stopped all of a sudden. And then people went bang. He was behind the 8 ball all the way through, or was he behind the 8 ball or was he just too lazy? Was he just too lazy or too busy shaking hands with people and getting stage media press conferences where he won't go out and well, you want the media and the press to ask him relevant questions, but one question now and he ducks it. You know, there's nothing substance on it. And then when you get some of the ministers on now, I mean, let's go with hopeless Matt Hancock. I mean, he just sells fibs. I'm being as kind as I can to him.
Yeah, indeed.
Sells fibs. And by the way, we're all watching it, and I'm going, he's just told the porky there. I mean, what about ring fencing people? You know, people coming out of hospital into care homes. Oh yeah, we'll do it. It's I'm not laughing at it. It makes me so angry, and I can't believe people are falling for it. I just can't. So, and you know, like I said before, the vaccine was brilliant. The NHS had done a great job, but he'll take credit for that. Like, but anything else, you know, Dominic Cummins, the guy, you know, he goes from Durham to Barnard Castle for a night, a sight test in the car. I mean, and he has a press conference in the Rose Garden down the street, and these idiots in the press are going, and we all know he's telling lies.
Yeah.
It's by the way. When we look back at it, I think we'll go, wow, what are we listening to here? What are we listening to here? It's, you know, it's the way we are. I mean, you should, don't get me on it. I'll be here all day. I can go on. You know what I was just going to kick on about then? And I was going to go on about the Brexit and him signing the Brexit, and now pulling out, he's broken international law. I mean, he's lied to the Queen. Where are we? Where are we? See,
it's one thing.
By the way, I need a gin and tonic now.
Yeah, you do indeed, mate. You deserve one. You deserve one. I mean, you'll know from the polls, Peter, that obviously, you know, despite everything that's going on with Johnson, that the Labour Party isn't doing brilliantly at the moment either. You've managed some big clubs, perhaps even handled situations in dressing rooms more tense than the divides in the Labour Party. If you had any advice for the current leader, what might it be?
Well, the Labour Party is a broad spectrum. We know there's Jeremy Corbyn, who I've met and I found very amiable. But Jeremy got crucified by the right-wing media, as we know. And funny enough, who owns that? Or the majority of it is a guy called Murdoch, is it? Who even Tony Blair palled up to. So it seems to me in our democracy now, if we pal up to press magnets, you got a chance of winning an election. That can't be right. That can't be right. And do people get brainwashed with media, press? It certainly looks like that. My advice to the Labour Party, left and central in the party, get together. There's a common cause here to get the Tories out. No infighting. Get together. We're all adults. Get round the table. Keir Starmer, I know you've got problems with certain members, but you've got to get together because that broad spectrum makes the party a better party. Get together. Get your heads together. Get round the table. Sort it out. Get some policies. Give and take on certain situations, but get some policies and get some unity. And let's get after the real enemy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that's obviously discussed with Labour is this issue of the red wall, and a lot of working class voters obviously turning away from Labour to the Tories. I mean, what do you think is behind that, just from, you know, your own perspective and, you know, perhaps from people you know who might be doing the same thing?
Well, I think the media's got a lot to do with it, but I mean, people. Let's just take Hartlepool, for instance, and I know loads of people in Hartlepool spent a lot of time in the north, which is a great part. You know, the moaning, nothing's happened, nothing's been done over the last so many, nothing's this. We're getting our hospitals. By the way, the Tories have been in power for 10 years. 10 years, by the way. And for 10 years before this, there was austerity, you know, policies, keeping people down, trying to balance the books, so they say. No magic money trees. Oh, but hey, if you want magic money trees, they're out there, by the way. They are out there. You know, when you're trying to look after society, fund the NHS, and the Tories will come out, oh, we put millions and millions. In real terms, as we all know, real terms, it's gone down. And that's what you've got to realise. And what would I say? I just think they've got disillusioned with politics and certainly Labour, but I think it's been fuelled. I think Brexit fuelled it without a doubt, and I think the right-wing media have fuelled it. I mean, let's have it right. The Brexit referendum was because David Cameron couldn't handle the right wing of his party. So to placate them, we'll have Brexit because we'll win it. Arrogance, yes, and then you get an advisory corrupt referendum, and we're out, and then. You know, we hold all the cards. We're going to get great deals. We've got oven-ready this. There'll be no borders in Northern Ireland, no borders in the Irish Sea. Hey, the reality, it was all absolute lies.
Cameron got away with it scot-free, pretty much.
Oh, by the way, he shook hands, rode out in the sunset. I'm all right, Jack. And then he gets lobbying for the, certain companies. It's laughable. That's not laughable. But it's something that I don't understand, and it's something that I can't understand the majority of people not grasping that.
No, definitely. Peter, you represented England at the '86 World Cup, and I'm sure you'll have seen. I don't know if you did, but there was that hologram of Maradona that was played at the opening game of the Copa America, which was pretty incredible, actually, that homage that they played. Quite an amazing sort of light show. One of the questions we had sent in, which I know you've answered before, so don't shoot me for asking you it again, is, what was it like to play against him? And particularly, obviously, in that game, at that moment when that goal went in, what was it like to watch it from the pitch?
I did watch it. Yeah, listen, Lionel Messi and Ronaldo were great players in there. Messi, but if you ask any Argentinian who the real deal is, you always say Maradona. He is in that country. He was like a god, and listen, great balance, great left peg, great awareness on the pitch, and he was. Listen, when you play against world class players, he was world class. George Best was world class, who I played against when I was at Bolton, and he was over the hill, but you still couldn't get near him. But yeah, he was just a top player, and he was absolutely revered. And I met him a couple of times. I met him in Dubai once, and I met him in, I think it was Jordan as well. Jordan, yeah. I think it was a Soccer X something there. And I spoke to him through an interpreter. And he was just like any other footballer. He had a bit of cheekiness about him. And he took the mick, he took the piss every now and then, like footballers do, like anyone in life does. He was a character, the fella. I think he ended up being a bit of a tortured soul. We all know he had a bit of a problem with drugs, but I just remember just remember him going past me as though I wasn't there and I couldn't get near him. But great players do that. Great players do that. But I must admit, it was hard work in that Mexico City, 8,000 feet. I'm not making excuses. It was but I ain't a lad, and it was 8,000 feet altitude. And that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, I'm giving you that one, Peter, for sure. A few quick fire ones before we let you go. Well, make sure you definitely get the second half in. Free of me and all of us. Obviously, big game tomorrow. Scotland, England. What do you think is going to happen?
I played against Scotland, and when England plays Scotland, it's never an easy one. If you look at the England team and you look at the Scottish or squads, man for man, you go, England are going to win. And I think England will win. I think we got quality. I do like, I thought Phillips and Rice, I thought they were brilliant. Sterling looked back something like his best, and the boy Foden's a genius. So I think Harry Kane will come, good players come. So I think we hold all the cards. I sound like the Tories on our Brexit now. I'm not, but I think we hold all the cards. But what I would say with the likes of Robertson, Tierney's fit, McTominay, McGinn, Will he play the boy Gilbert, the Chelsea lad who's not bad? They've got good players, and I think England will win, but never underestimate Scotland against England. Never, ever. And as derby games go in international football, this is the oldest international, as we all know. I think we'll win, but it's going to be hard work because them Scots lads, them boys, they grow another, they get another yard of pace from somewhere. It is typical Braveheart, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I definitely will be having a few gin and tonics watching that. I get nervous, but I can't wait for it. I think we'll win, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I'll be joining you on those, mate. I'm looking forward to it as well. Who have you rated so far from watching? I mean, I've been watching most of the matches as well, but who have you rated?
Teams, you mean?
Yeah, and maybe a couple of like the individuals as well who you think have looked good.
I do like. I think Italy have looked strong. I'm not sure how the opposition would be, and I'm not sure whether Chiellini and Boccini will be all right. You know, they're in the 30s, but you've got some good attacking players. Belgium, hey, De Bruyne come on today. I mean, he's just the kid's just a genius. So we can never write them off. Him and Eden Hazard coming on. I still think they're not great at the back, Belgium. So I think there's going to be some great games. I've got half a sneak for France, and I'm not having a go, Pogba, but to me, he does play better when he's got that blue shirt on of France, and Kante in there with him, who's just a magnificent player. And then the three up top, Griezmann, Benzema, and Mbappe. Wow, they're not bad. I think it's a really fun. Spain are good technically. I don't think they've got a goal scorer. Morata missed a few chances. It's have I missed anybody out there who've impressed me? Man,
I was going to say if you went for them all, you definitely missed the second half.
It's half time.
Yeah.
But the games are coming thick and fast, aren't they? And but I've got to give a shout out to the Hungary crowd, the atmosphere in the games. It just football, and I love me footy, and I watch my grandson Freddie play when I can, but it's nothing without fans. It's just nothing. I mean, and like you say, the players have done great playing in empty stadiums. Must have been difficult, but you know, can't wait to get them big stadiums filled, and you can't beat what people watching the game give to the game.
Yeah, definitely. So shall I take from that though that France are your tip to win then?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going for I'm going for France. I hope we win it. I think we've got a great chance. By the way, I think, I mean, we all say that it's coming on, but the young players excite me. I've got to say that. I mean, Kyle Walker's in it right back, but the kid Reece James, you know, Bellingham, there's some really good young, and what I get a confidence when I'm watching them, and I haven't really had that, but I do get a confidence watching them. So France are my favourites, but if I was going to go for a second favourites, it'd be us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, anytime Foden's on the ball, I'm running around screaming. So it's
outstanding footballer.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well,
I'm not sure about Barney. He's got. So people said he copied Gaza. I think he copied me.
Yeah, I mean, I think his is better than mine, that's for sure. But what one question we did have sent in was to ask you, Peter, who was the best striker never to have played for England?
Wow,
pretty big one to hit you with at the end.
Who was the best? That's a good question. Huh? There'll be an obvious one out there, won't there, as well? The best striker who never played for England.
one from the audience that's just come in, just to hit you at the end, just to scupper your halftime viewing.
Oh, you've killed me, haven't you?
Yeah.
Honest God, I can't think of one.
I tell you what, if we, what we'll do is we'll get it from you on Twitter afterwards, and we'll put it out.
Brilliant. That's fine.
As a special.
Gives me a little time, because that is a good. Hey, what a good question.
That is a good one.
It's a jazz, because there'll be someone out there who you think, what, he never played for England? Wow. I know a couple of midfield players who I thought were unlucky. Billy Bonds and Howard Kendall. I thought they were unlucky not to play for England. I've got to say that. But the striker ones kill me.
We'll get you on that for sure. We'll to
I'll
all of you watching, we'll make sure Peter gets the answer to that one out. Well, Peter, massive thank you, mate, for joining us. It's been such an enjoyable 45 minutes or so talking to you about everything football and politics and the whole lot. And I think I would just say keep up what you're doing. I mean, it's great to see your voice online and see you speaking out. And to all those people who would say don't, or you shouldn't have a say or whatever. I'm glad you tell them to stuff it. So
it's a democracy. I appreciate what other people think. I'm not going to bury them for it. All I'd say, hey, everybody stay safe and try to enjoy life. That's what it's about. Smile. Even though you don't want to smile, smile.
No, brilliant. Thanks, Peter. Absolute football legend, and really appreciate your time.
Take care.
Take care, mate.
Bye-bye.